Hi everyone, Religious Fanboy here again. I am here to discuss. We are discussing today episode 5 of Erase titled Getaway. The main themes are doing our main theme that we will be focusing on is the concept of doing what is honorable and not in bringing up the fact of life involving the muddying of ethics and how motives play a role in that. Um, Before um actually I'm gonna do discussion for a brief bit. This is one of the ways that this is shown is that is done very subtly that I actually did not notice until this last time watching it, excuse me, um, was I'm not for sure on this, but I think Kaio's body is visible when we see Kaio's mom and her boyfriend sitting in the apartment wondering what to do after they find Kaio's body. Um, This scene is right after Satoru runs to Kaio's house to try to make sure she's alive because she wasn't at school the day after is isn't her birthday, and he had suspicion that the body had been moved. Well, had looked in like a shed in the backyard of their house where she had been being beaten and abused by her mother earlier on in the show. Um, and the way this theme is shown is we we see a similarity between Toru's response to his mother's murder and Kaio's murder. It is polar opposite, where Toru is trying to figure out who the killer is and only felt the need to run and clear his name and hide from police once he had come to the conclusion that was no one was listening to him and his actions were selfless and pure for what he was doing where Kaio's mom, hid the body and the evidence and was panicking on what to do when she could have reported that her daughter had been kidnapped and brought back dead to the house. But for similar reason to another situation where she was trying to get Kaio's swelling to go down, she cared more about not being questioned and bothered by anyone over the well being of her daughter and making God honoring decisions. Um, we see another example with Satoru's mom and her talk to the reporter about not wanting hoping that Satoru doesn't remember the situation, which it is important that we remember our past because it helps us grow and overcome issues. But we also can see from the mother's Satoru's mother's perspective that what she was doing what was best for Satoru, and be honest. And then the third biggest example that we see, well, the other two ways that this is paralleled is with Satoru and Ari's, I think, Ari, trying to remember her name, the person that works at the pizza place, with Satoru, where he has the desire to keep Ari safe, which leads to him trying to report Satoru to the police in order to not get her involved and protect her. And he is called out for lying and not believing Satoru's story by gonna actually pull it. See if I can. Um, and the the fourth and final example with is in the backstory of Ari's family and the situation with her dad that led to the divorce of her parents and involved leaving the farmers co-op because someone in the small town that they a clerk at store in the small town that they lived in had falsely accused her dad of stealing chocolate bar where there could have and should have been other steps measured and with both Satoru's boss and the shop clerk, we also can take away from it this sub theme of the idea of being guilty until proven innocent. This, with this mindset, people can end up being wrongly hurt and, in extreme cases, wrongly imprisoned. Even there have been situations where people have been unjustly put on death row because people were so certain that they were guilty, but in they were actually innocent. This is even a common thing that we hear about in with Yuri C in the show, where the um, all of the suspects that are wrongly accused and framed for the kidnappings and murders are we hear about multiple cases where they plead innocent the entire time that they are being pursued and being arrested and throughout their time in prison. Um, and with that being said, I will move on to this pass to the passage of scripture for this video, which I will we specifically talk about these two verses in the passage for this video is Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9. I in my notes I have the ESV, the English Standard Version of the text. I I am curious. Feel free to comment if you enjoyed this video. I would appreciate subscri- subscribing or just any feedback. I like to hear what you all are taking from the videos and the scripture and the episodes. Um, but uh, especially I want to know what scriptural translations you use, whether that be in like your personal devotion time or when reading when fulfilling church functions, um, or if you read along with the scripture and refer back to it that is referenced and talked about in these videos. I would love to know your interpretation and what translation you used. And yeah, um, Isaiah 55 verse verses 8 and 9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." The book of Isaiah is thought to be the collection of teachings and writings of the prophet Isaiah, and he was one of the last prophets before the fall of Israel, at the hands of the Assyrians. I'm just gonna pull up the full chapter real quick to refer to it. Where the first part of chapter 55 talks about aspects of his covenant, and leads into to the context after God giving them permission, promising they will be given permission to return through the teachings of Isaiah. We did that section ends with verse 7, which leads the first into the two verses that we discussed and read aloud. The word that I used for text analysis research was quite sure how to pronounce it. I think it's pronounced Gabon, and used it is translated in the ESV to mean higher, and throughout its uses in the Bible and the connotations of the word, it has both been used as being physically higher as well as having many synonyms such as haughty and loftiness, as well as words like exaltation and grandeur. Now, like in this passage, it when it is talking about heaven, it is used as a metaphor referring to the height of the distance that heaven is above earth. It could be interpreted as physical height difference or an ethical height difference, which is what we can imply based on the word synonyms is what of the ideas of being exalted and being of grandeur, being more along the lines of what they mean towards the end of the verse, specifically in saying, referring to my ways being higher than your ways and my thoughts being higher than your thoughts. These are more abstract concepts that pertain to the ethics, mindsets, and what motivates us, and what, in the context of this verse, what motivates God, um, and how it invokes and reminds us that God's ways are higher than our ways, and that would I mean, because God is capable of seeing the bigger picture, that His plan is more thought out than our plan, and that He is a better judge of character, of circumstances, because of His knowledge of history and time due to observing it and taking a part in it while living outside of it and inside of it, being omnipresent. Um, the commentary, the commentaries that were used from the recorded software talks about the, and specifically the New Bible commentary. It talks about the challenging prospect of comparing our ways and thought processes, specifically using the word wicked as being a reason for why we need salvation and why we need to seek God's understanding and trust in that over our own understanding. And that, that was the main thing in the commentaries that stood out to me. And with that being said, I hope and pray that you took away from the episode, this video, and the scripture that was read and discussed whatever God intended for you to take away from these things. And with that being said, um, some other announcements are I am planning on. I was. I've not been feeling well recently, so that and scheduling with uploading my last video has led to this being video being pushed back. So I'm gonna try to have the lesson video for episode 6 of Erased, titled The Grim Reaper. I'm about halfway through the process of finishing up my notes. Still need to do some text analysis stuff in the Accordance software before ready to do that. Plan is to have that uploaded Friday. And I am contemplating getting a Patreon, and the perk right now would be having access to my lesson notes that I've been making for every video since, I want to say, June. And with that being said, um, I with that being said, may God be with you, and I will see you next time. Bye.